You want to know what Farage and Reform are doing on their rare visits to Parliament? They're voting against our employment rights bill.
Let me give a message to two-tier Keir Starmer. Let me give a message to all of them. We will not be cowed. We will not be silenced by anybody. We are the British people, and we want a common sense government back in charge of our country. We're going to fight for it, and we are going to win.
The leader of the UK Reform Party, who, by the way, did really well in that last election. I've been his friend for a long time, and I wasn't sure, am I supposed to be his friend or not? But it never mattered to me if he did well or not. I always liked him, but it's easier to like him when he got the kind of votes he got. He really took it by storm, and they say he's going to do even better this time. Nigel Farage. Where is Nigel?
Everyone knew what was going to happen, except it would appear the local police. And I will be writing to the acting chief constable to say, stop looking at what people say online and allow democracy to flourish in Devon, Cornwall and the whole of the West.
Nigel Farage and his Reform Party are shaking up the UK's political landscape, positioning themselves as the true alternative to what they call the broken establishment. As public frustration with mainstream parties grows, Reform UK is capitalising on widespread dissatisfaction with the Conservatives and Labour, gaining momentum among voters who feel left behind by the political elite. During their recent visits to Parliament, Reform MPs made headlines by voting against the government's employment rights bill, a move they argue is necessary to prevent further economic restrictions on businesses. Farage and his allies believe that excessive government intervention is stifling job creation and harming small businesses.
He said that his way was the way for people to have good, well-paid jobs. Well, it was the Conservatives that started it, but Labour that have continued. But the net zero madness is closing down factories, is closing down industry on a scale we couldn't have even believed. Today, it's the mini plant at Cowley that employs 3,500 people. Before that, it was 1,100 jobs going at Luton. And the reason is simple. The Labour and Conservative governments have said, you must buy electric cars. Do you want to buy electric cars?
The UK's commitment to net zero policies, arguing that the push for green energy is destroying industries and driving up the cost of living. He has blamed both Labour and the Conservatives for implementing energy policies that he claims have led to job losses in key manufacturing sectors and made household energy bills unaffordable for ordinary Britons. His supporters see him as one of the few politicians willing to challenge what they perceive as the government's blind adherence to costly environmental initiatives. Beyond domestic issues, the rivalry between Farage and Starmer also highlights a broader ideological divide. While Starmer represents the traditional pro-European establishment, Farage has aligned himself with populist movements worldwide, drawing comparisons to figures like Donald Trump. The two men couldn't be more different in their political styles. Starmer presents himself as a steady, pragmatic leader, while Farage thrives on confrontation and direct, unapologetic rhetoric. Farage's relationship with Trump is another element fueling debate. The two share a mutual admiration, with Farage openly supporting Trump's policies and Trump praising Farage's ability to mobilize voters. Their political strategies mirror each other in many ways, with both relying on strong nationalist messaging, skepticism of international organizations, and a focus on appealing to disillusioned working-class voters. This transatlantic connection has led some of Farage's critics to argue that he is importing American-style populism into British politics, a claim that Farage himself embraces, seeing it as evidence that he is successfully challenging the political establishment. Meanwhile, Starmer's approach to Farage appears increasingly inconsistent. After years of condemning Trump-style politics, he now finds himself attempting to win over voters who are drawn to Farage's message. While he continues to publicly distance himself from populist rhetoric, his recent moves suggest a more strategic effort to appeal to the same disaffected voter base. His shifting stance raises questions about Labour's ability to maintain its traditional support, while also competing with the Reform Party's growing influence. As the UK moves closer to the next general election, the battle between Farage and Starmer is only set to escalate. Farage is determined to position Reform UK as a serious contender, arguing that neither Labour nor the Conservatives...
A lot of the criticism is of Nigel Farage and so many of his trips abroad and him being in America as well.
He's the leader of a party, and let's be honest, the Prime Minister's not exactly known for his appearances in the House of Commons. The next lie that the Prime Minister told was with regard to the NHS. We've never suggested charging people, far from it. We keep repeating free at the point of delivery. What we've done, and what the Health Secretary Wes Streeting did, was to copy our policies of saying, actually, in order to bring the waiting list down and improve healthcare for everybody, you've got to make greater use of the independent sector. The NHS should be buying millions of operations from the independent sector to get waiting lists.
Can be trusted to fix the country's problems. Starmer, on the other hand, is trying to keep Labour's voter base intact, while fending off a challenge from an insurgent movement that refuses to be ignored. With the political landscape shifting rapidly, the future of British politics remains uncertain. Will Farage's message of defiance and disruption continue to gain traction, or will Starmer succeed in countering the populist wave? As voters weigh their options, the outcome of this growing political showdown could reshape the UK's direction for years to come.